What's going on, guys? Welcome back to this week's first exclusive segment from the greatest podcast on turf. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Anthony.
And we have pens.
1,000 of them.
1,000 of them. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach Mom.
Coach Mom. Anyways, for this episode, we're going to be doing our bi-weekly mock draft, NFL mock draft. We're going to be doing a full NFL mock draft. Usually we just kind of focus in on like 10 or so picks, but this time we are going to focus in on every single pick 1 to 32. We're not going to get too deep into it because we're not going to put out an hour-long video, but we're going to explain each guy. So be sure to tune in, listen. If you have any disagreements, let us know. Be nice about it. You know what I mean?
Listen,
or don't.
Be nice about it because we got this guy that likes to be the bigger person and just be nice, but I'm an asshole and I want to just tell you to fuck off and...
All right.
But we'll see. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe if you're new. If you need a stocking stuffer and you would like some pens, hit us up on Instagram at The Greatest Podcast OT. Listen to the podcast this week. It was a good episode. We recapped the NFL, touched on some UFC, touched on some NBA, touched on a lot of different stuff on the podcast this week. We got some news in college football, NFL playoffs coming up, NFL draft prospects coming up. So with that being said, like, subscribe, show some love to the podcast. The Greatest Podcast on Turf Studio coming soon. We are trying to find a new date for the giveaway that was supposed to happen at the Eagles football team game that got postponed due to COVID. We can't make it due to work and other foreseeing obligations. So we're trying to find a new date. Follow us on Instagram below for some pens, for details on the giveaways. And speaking of studios and giveaways, none of that would be possible without
our sponsor, Little Italy Pizzeria. They got the best cheesesteaks, the best pizza in all of Delaware. 2 locations. One of those is in Middletown, Delaware. The other one is in Townsend. It is a great family business with great food, great people, great prices. Be sure to come in and check it out. Let them know that the Greatest Podcast on Turf sent you. They will take care of you. Also, show proof that you're subscribed. They will hook you up with an additional discount. Also, if you want a pen, you can probably ask for one, and I'm sure you can get one. We have 1,000 of them.
Literally.
We not
have
joking.
1,000.
With all that being said, is it time?
I think let's get into the fucking mock draft.
All right, so to start off this mock draft, things changed over this past week with the Detroit Lions winning. Now the Jacksonville Jaguars have the number 1 pick.
Real quick, just a disclaimer. The draft order is currently changed from when we did this mock draft. The Browns just lost to the Raiders, so those picks will be different. And the Vikings and Bears are playing right now. So the draft order will be different when you're watching this tomorrow. We're recording this Monday, so bear with us. Just if you guys don't know how we do it around here, Ryan had the first pick. We alternated until we got to the 29th and 30th pick. In that case, I took the Patriots, Ryan took the Cowboys, because those are our respective favorite teams. But other than that, you get the memo. And with the first pick of the 2022 Greatest Podcast on Turf, 3rd NFL mock draft, Ryan and the Jacksonville Jaguars select
Aidan Hutchinson of the Michigan Wolverines. I think there is 2 options here. It is either Thibodeau or it is Aidan Hutchinson. When you have the number 1 overall pick, number 2 overall pick, I think there is 2 guys that really speak out, put themselves ahead of the others. It is Hutchinson, it is Thibodeau. Hutchinson this year, if you want Hutchinson, you chase production. If you want Thibodeau, you are chasing just probably straight upside that he could be the best player in the league, I would say. Yeah. Hutchinson still has that, but Hutchinson is somebody that we have seen him produce. He is less bust likely than Thibodeau just because we've seen him produce. So the Jacksonville Jaguars, they do have a need at edge rusher. I know they have Josh Allen, who's an absolute stud. When you get another one, you can pair him up on the other side of Josh Allen. That, in my opinion, is the best thing in all of football. In my personal opinion, the tier as positions go, quarterback is in his own tier up top, and then the next tier, you have edge rushers, probably being the most important. Every team needs a good edge rusher to put pressure on the quarterback. When a team has 2 good edge rushers, that helps out the other one. It also helps out the D-line, creating pressure to the quarterback. We all see in today's NFL that, Tom Brady just dots people up. Unless, last night when the Saints got a whole bunch of pressure, it hurt them. They couldn't figure things out. They got shut out. So the Jacksonville Jaguars here grabbing arguably the best edge rusher on the board. 1A, 1B, whatever one they decide. I think it's great for this defense, and I think it's a great pick for him.
Yeah, honestly, with these first 2 picks, it's kind of all just based off of personal preference, who you like more between Aidan Hutchinson or Kayvon Thibodeau. This class is very, very loaded on edge rushers, especially the top. So, I mean, it's really all just depends who you like. You see teams like the Browns, the Cardinals, the Bills, and all the 49ers, the Panthers, all these teams that have two great edge rushers, and their defensive lines just thrive, getting pressure to quarterbacks, and just wreaking havoc and being a top defense usually. So, I mean, I like the pick of edge rusher to the Jags. And with the second pick, the Detroit Lions are up, and I'm sure you guys all know who we're going here. Kayvon Thibodeau, obviously. I mean, best player available. The Jaguars, I mean, the Lions literally have nothing going for them. They just beat the Cardinals, though. They have a good offensive line. DeAndre Swift's a decent running back. But Kayvon Thibodeau.
Hutchinson, hater.
Dan Hawk. Shame he got hurt. But yeah, Kayvon Thibodeau, he brings that much-needed edge presence. They have Trey Flowers, who's blown since he left New England. They have the Okwara brothers, who are solid off the edge. But Kayvon Thibodeau gives you that top prospect, that boom X factor. Going to come in right away, have high expectations. Going up against the Vikings, the Bears, who really don't have crazy good offensive tackles. And, I mean, the Packers are obviously a different story. Who knows what's going to happen with them after this year. But you're bringing in Kayvon Thibodeau, who's a day one starter, who's definitely a huge difference maker on the team. I mean, in my opinion, you could go like maybe a Kyle Hamilton here, but the problem is with him, you don't value safeties at the number 2 overall pick. Like maybe their skill sets, but we'll touch on that in a minute. But yeah, Kayvon Thibodeau at number 2. I think he's clear-cut number 2 if he falls. I think 1 and 2 are lock again this year. Kayvon and Hutchinson. It just all depends on what the team's like.
Yeah, in this next pick, we got the Houston Texans. I was actually thinking about Kyle Hamilton, taking him here just because of how good he is. The Texans need the best player available, personally. That's what I think 100%. Kyle Hamilton is arguably that, but I like Derek Stingley, cornerback out of LSU more. Stingley, he came in as a freshman. He was the highest rated recruit in his class, and he came in off the scene. He was amazing. He was the best cornerback in all of college football, and everybody that watched college football would have told you that he is going to be a top 5 pick when he's drafted. And if you look here, that's still staying the same. He's battled injuries throughout his career a little bit, but he's still not even arguably, he's the best cornerback in his draft class. He has the most talent. He has the most upside. If there's any corner in this draft class that's going to be the best corner in the NFL, it is Derek Stingley. And he might not be, but if there's anybody that will be, it will be Derek Stingley. He played at LSU. He's guarded against every single receiver that you could possibly imagine. He went up against Jefferson and Chase in practice. He went up against Alabama receivers playing against them. He played against Ole Miss. He played against everybody that you could possibly imagine. Florida, played against them all. He has NFL experience guarding NFL receivers at the college level. Derek Stingley, size is great. Athleticism is great. The upside is the best corner in football. I think that the Texans have to take him here. They need the best player available because the whole entire team is in shambles. Can maybe argue a quarterback, but they might try the Davis Mills situation. It also might be a little bit early for a quarterback based on the class that we are given. So Derek Stingley, in my opinion, is the best player, so that's why I took him here to the Houston Texans.
Yeah, I like this pick. I think, like you said, you could also argue Kyle Hamilton. In my opinion, I think Kyle Hamilton's the best player in this draft class, and I don't really think it's that close. It's just the fact that safeties aren't valued that high, which leads me to the 4th overall pick. The Jets are back on the clock, and this was a tough one for me. I think there's a multiple different ways they could have go. They could have gone with Ike Mekwonu, a tackle out of NC State, but he's a pure left tackle, and he is a left tackle. If you draft him, he should stay there. And they have Mekhi Becton. Could have gone Evan Neal, but moving him to right tackle could get a little iffy because he was better at left tackle than right tackle. So I went ahead and just based off of pure positional value here, and I took George Karlaftis out of Purdue. I mean, they have Shaq and Carl Lawson. Both are okay. They're injured. They have, what the hell is his name? They got Quinnen Williams on the interior, Sebastian Joseph Day on the interior. Their defensive line's there, but with a guy like George Karlaftis, the positional value in a draft class that's not really that deep or that heavy is too high. When you could get him in a defense that Robert Saleh's head coaching, good things are going to happen. We've seen Nick Bosa, DeForest Buckner, Eric Armstead, guys thrive in that defense. And I mean, I think we could see that here with George Karlaftis. I think that he fits the Robert Saleh scheme perfect. I think Robert Saleh will love him as a prospect and player, and I think that if he's there at 4 in the Jets, I think it's too good to pass up on. Now, I know he's a tier below Hutchinson and Thibodeau, but that's really, really not saying much because these guys are very, very good at their respective positions. But I like George Karlaftis here. Like I said, the positional value is just too high for a team with the Jets that really need all positions, except maybe defensive tackle. So this is another situation that we've seen with these top teams that are kind of best player available. So I went George Karlaftis for that reason.
My next pick here, got the New York Giants at pick number 5. I ended up taking the tackle, Akeem Ekwonu of NC State tackle. The New York Giants, we've heard this kind of situation for the past years now, that Saquon Barkley is the best running back in football, and Saquon Barkley isn't good because of his offensive line not being very good. Well, here's your opportunity to fix that. You are sitting at pick number 5. You also have pick number 6. So in my opinion, I think one of these has to be an offensive lineman. And Ekwonu, you are getting a starting left tackle. And that's really what you need. The offense was in complete shambles this year. Everybody got hurt, you can say, and you can argue maybe that's why they suck. Daniel Jones stayed hurt. The receiver stayed hurt. The defense, I would say, was still okay for how bad their offense was. But in my opinion, you have to go offensive line with one of these 2 picks because that was probably the biggest weakness on this team the past 5 or so years. So the best offensive lineman available, I think, is a must-take here.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ikem Ekwonu is a guy who can come in and play left tackle right away due to the versatility of Andrew Thomas, who has experience at both tackles in the NFL level and at the college level as well, that they drafted him 2 years ago. I like that pick a lot. He is currently my OT1. He shot up the draft boards. He's been killing it. There has been some concerns about Evan Neal and that he's raw and that if maybe he's not really NFL ready as we initially thought. And I mean, Ikem Ekwonu has proved it year in and year out. Pretty sure he's a 4-year starter. I mean, I can check right now just to avoid it. Started left tackle as a true freshman in 2019 and quickly developed. He's a 4-year starter at left tackle.
He's a junior.
He's a 3-year starter at left tackle. He's absolutely killed it all 3 years he's been starter, and he's a top 5 pick for a reason. Going to the Giants that need the position. So with that being said, I love that Ikem Ekwonu pick for you. And I'm back here on the clock with this next pick for the Giants. Giants have back-to-back picks, and with that being said, I'm taking DeMarvin Leal out of Texas A&M. Now, I know you could argue they have Dexter Lawrence, they have Leonard Williams, but they still get ran all over. They lost Dalvin Tomlinson, who was a bigger piece of the interior defensive line than they may have thought. They didn't really replace him. They don't have anyone there. And it's starting to show. The Giants are getting ran through game in and game out. Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams can only do so much on the interior defensive line. So DeMarvin Leal is perfect. He's wreaked havoc in the SEC against offensive lines for the past years now, and I mean, he's really showed it over the past 2 years. That's why his draft stock's so high. He's played against the Alabama offensive lines of the world, the LSU offensive lines of the world, these offensive lines that have produced pro-level linemen. He's gone against them and wreaked havoc at Texas A&M, and that is all that the Giants need. You could argue quarterback here. This may be where we see the first quarterback off the board. You could also argue Kyle Hamilton as well, due to the fact that Jabril Peppers is a free agent. Logan Ryan's playing in his 30s, and they do have Xavier McKinney, so you maybe could argue Kyle Hamilton here. But I just feel like that DeMarvin Leal is too good to pass up on with the positional needs they have, because they could bring back Jabril Peppers, and Logan Ryan is still serviceable for the time being. So that's why I went DeMarvin Leal. And McKinney has been playing crazy good. Great value for where they got him in the draft 2 years ago.
That leads me to my next pick. We got the Carolina Panthers, and I took his boy Matt Corral here.
Matty Ice,
it's really as simple as I am tired of seeing the Panthers have a quarterback that they put out on the field. Sam Darnold is horrible.
Yep.
Cam Newton is not good either.
Terrible.
PJ Walker is also not good.
Nope.
Matt Corral, I think it's a perfect fit for this Carolina Panthers Matt Rule offense. Matt Rule is a college football coach. He likes to do crazy things on offense. He likes the RPO. He likes the option. When you put Matt Corral with a Christian McCaffrey, a DJ Moore, that is a very good offense. Matt Corral and Christian McCaffrey can work together tremendously in the backfield. They can do options, whatever they wanted to do. Christian McCaffrey is the best running back in football. This is a great situation for Matt Corral to go in. He has the best check down running back in football. That's what a rookie quarterback wants. He wants his check down guy. And when you have Christian McCaffrey, that is a great confidence booster, because that man is open. He will make yards out of nothing. So Matt Corral going to the Carolina Panthers, I think, is a great pick for the Panthers. I think the Panthers are tired of losing because of a bad quarterback, because the team isn't that bad in theory. I mean, the defense is pretty solid. The offense has its weapons. It's just a matter of, can Christian McCaffrey stay healthy? And can Matt Rule develop a quarterback in Matt Corral and go lead you guys to a Super Bowl possibly? Matt Corral was on an Ole Miss offense that was at least top 5. I don't, might have been top 1, but they were at least top 5 in total offense. Matt Corral can run the football. He was very good doing that at Ole Miss. So Carolina Panthers take Matt Corral here.
Like you said, Matt Corral played in a similar offense to. He would be playing in a similar offense to what he was running with Lane Kiffin due to the speed they have on the offense. So, I mean, I love the fit and I love the pick. And right here, I mean, this really is a no-brainer. Kyle Hamilton's the pick here at number 8. If Kyle Hamilton falls this far, I'd be surprised. I mean, yeah, we saw the Jamal Adams top pick experiment for the Jets not work out, but they got new management now. They have a defensive-minded coach in Robert Saleh who knows how to use his defensive players. We saw the 49ers defense. He had them in the Super Bowl. The Jets defense has not been atrocious. They've been getting it done with Bryce Hall playing corner. I know they have Marcus May, who is on a franchise tag, who we don't know if he's coming back. I mean, there's been trade talks and talks that he doesn't want to be there, and I don't blame him. But Kyle Hamilton, best player available here. It's a perfect pick. I think if he falls this far, Robert Saleh will take him. You could maybe argue an Evan Neal here, but again, he's kind of a red flag playing right tackle. I mean, yeah, you're not playing based off of thinking about injury to Mekhi Becton again. But I just decided Hamilton here. I think Kyle Hamilton is the best player in the class. You could argue it, so that's why I took him here at 8 and really didn't think twice about it.
I was taking Kyle Hamilton here at 9 if he fell, but the Atlanta Falcons here, they need kind of a lot. Their team is in trouble. I would also have taken Matt Corral if he fell to Atlanta at 9. But what I ended up doing is taking an offensive lineman, because when in doubt, take offensive lineman. You take Evan Neal out of Alabama. Arguments that he's raw, whatever. He's an Alabama offensive tackle, and those guys do pretty good in the NFL. Those guys have proven in the SEC that they are pretty good offensive linemen. The Atlanta Falcons, no matter what they need, I would say offensive help. Calvin Ridley didn't play for much of the year, and hopefully he gets better. Matt Ryan, he hasn't looked good at all. Kyle Pitts, you know, he actually been pretty good. He's about to be the second leading rookie receiving tight end in history. So yeah, the Atlanta Falcons, I think they just need to provide offensive help for whatever quarterback they end up probably bringing in theory. There's
Ben
a couple.
Roethlisberger.
Ben Ross. They might be able to grab a quarterback in the second round. There are a couple that might fall to them in the second round based on the draft that we just provided. So you have to grab, I think, offensive pieces that will help out your quarterback in the future. Maybe you don't draft one this year, but next year when Evan Neal is a better tackle, you have a rookie quarterback and he'll be his guy that protects him. So the Atlanta Falcons, they have a lot of work to do. They are in a very bad stage of a rebuild because they still have veteran players that
are making way too much goddamn
that are
money.
making a lot of money. So, and with this pick here, you just kind of go safe. You get an offensive tackle because I don't really see any other position bringing them to a Super Bowl. So just grab an offensive tackle.
No, I mean, maybe, like you said, this could be where we see the first quarterback, maybe. This
We
could
just took
be,
Matt Corral.
I mean, the second quarterback, maybe. This could be where we see the first wide receiver go off the board due to Calvin Ridley's status, due to Russell Gage being the receiver 1 currently. But not like that Evan Neal pick. I think it's right, like you said. This year, it seemed like the head coach didn't want to just roll over and go rebuild. So maybe he doesn't want to do it again. But, I mean, because I guess in theory, they're kind of competitive for the playoffs right now.
Yeah.
In theory. So, I mean, I like the Evan Neal pick it safe. Like you said, when in doubt, take an offensive lineman. And I'll be using that excuse a little later. But the Eagles are on the clock now. And, I mean, this is
Spencer
really
Rattler.
out of South Carolina. But no, I mean, this one just based off me. This could be a lot of different players. You could maybe argue a Kenny Pickett here, but I can't see the Eagles going quarterback. You could argue receiver, but I'm going to go ahead and just take the best player off the board right now, and that is Andrew Booth Jr. out of Clemson. Any other year, he's CB1. He may not have the stats as a corner that you want to look for with interceptions and pass breakups, but that's a good thing because he doesn't get the ball thrown to him a lot. He's been playing in the ACC. He's been good. He's been lights out all 4 years. He's played in the playoffs. He's played in the national championship games against the Justin Jeffersons, against the Jamar Chases. Andrew Booth has been very good in his tenure at Clemson, and I think that he's a good fit across from Darius Slay, who's been pretty good this year for the Eagles. I will give them the benefit of the doubt. He has been pretty good. But yeah, Andrew Booth as a future CB1 of the Eagles with Darius Slay getting old, I think it's good. And I mean, if I'm the Eagles drafting, I think Andrew Booth is a very good pick here. It probably won't happen because remember the Eagles have the best offensive line in football.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it probably won't happen because I don't know anything about the Eagles and I'm just an asshole. But Andrew Booth at 10.
With this next pick, I have the Minnesota Vikings at 11. I'm taking Jordan Davis, interior defensive lineman out of Georgia. The Minnesota Vikings all year have battled injuries, problems at the defensive line all season. Danielle Hunter is out for the season. Everson Griffin, we all know his problem. Michael Pierce has even been hurt all season. So taking a Jordan Davis here, I think, is a great pick for him. This is obviously a position of need because they get ran over basically every single game. The Minnesota Vikings, they don't really have a lot of problems that you can think of. Besides, the obvious Kirk Cousins being a problem.
Kirk Cousins is fucking terrible. Jesus Christ.
The problem is they're pick 11, so you're not most likely not going to get your franchise quarterback type of player. And they still like Kirk Cousins. They still pay him a lot of money, so Kirk Cousins is the man.
I don't know why or how, but
they have Dalvin Cook, who's obviously a stud. 2 receivers that are stud. On paper, this team is actually pretty good. The defense is what lacks. Secondary being one of the problems. If Andrew Booth was here, I would have considered it. But Jordan Davis, it fills a need up front. They battle problems with defensive line every season. Danielle Hunter every season, it seems like. So taking a big Jordan Davis to plug up the run, provide you some depth, some help on defensive line, I think is a good pick.
yeah, I like that one. And with the 12th pick, the Washington football team, they're taking Kenny Pickett and they're not thinking twice about it. In my notes, I literally put because Taylor Heineke blows. I mean, they like him. He's been doing okay. He's serviceable. But Taylor Heineke's not your franchise quarterback. I'll tell you that right now. They're getting a guy, Kenny Pickett, who can. Yes, there we go. Sid, that was for you. But yeah, Kenny Pickett, they're getting a guy who maybe can sit behind Taylor Heineke for another year to develop some more if they like Taylor Heineke that much. They still have Fitzpatrick under contract for 1 more year, if I'm not mistaken, who is also a great developer for young quarterbacks. But I think this has to be quarterback. Last year, this should have been quarterback. I think that they're another team, maybe an offensive lineman here, a Charles Cross, a Tyler Linderbaum. But I went quarterback here because it is a much, much, much needed position for them. And I think that if they get a quarterback who's good, they can start to compete with Dallas in the NFC. So that's why I took Kenny Pickett.
Jay Jettis just did that man dirty. Anyways, next pick, you got the Las Vegas Raiders up. They're taking Kenyon Green, interior offensive lineman out of Texas A&M.
Love this.
Derek Carr has been through the ringer. You don't have a receiver. Darren Waller's hurt right now. You don't have an offensive line. They got rid of a center. They got rid of his right tackle. They got rid of
his left guard.
They gave him a right tackle in last year's draft class, so that's
Alex Leatherwood, who's
good.
Blown and made me look like an asshole.
But now they're going to make up for it. They're going to take Kenyon Green, interior offensive lineman out of Texas A&M. It's really as simple as this. Dude's a stud.
Yep.
They need offensive line help.
Yep.
Josh Jacobs can't get past the line of scrimmage ever. Derek Carr gets sacked every other play. They just barely beat the Browns with nobody playing football for the Browns.
Yeah.
They need help on the offensive line. If Derek Carr even is still the Raiders quarterback, they need to protect him. They need to protect whatever quarterback that they have. So Green here is the pick. It will help out the whole entire team. Offensive line, once you build up the trenches, everything falls into place. So there's my pick.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot. I'm a huge fan of Kenyon Green as a prospect. Moving on, speaking of offensive linemen, Rob Horan and Max, this is for you. The Eagles effing blow. Their offensive line is not the best in the league, so you're a dickhead. But I guess we're just a typical small podcast who doesn't know what they're talking about. I mean, but with that being said, and just
we're a typical small podcast that pens.
With us being just a typical small podcast and not admitting that the Eagles are the best offensive line in football, I'm taking Tyler Linderbaum here because the Eagles' offensive line effing blows. Brandon Brooks is 100 years old and hasn't played a game in 2 years now. Jason Kelsey's 100 years old, and I mean, he's just old as shit. He's pretty good, but he's just old and he doesn't even want to play. I don't think he's wanted to play for the past 2 years, but they've begged him to stay. Lane Johnson hasn't played a healthy season. Oklahoma Boomer Sooner. Lane Johnson hasn't played a healthy season in 5 years? So yeah, with Tyler Linderbaum, they're getting the best interior offensive lineman in the class, in my opinion. He's a stud center. He's that Jason Kelce replacement who you can feel confident in plugging him in right away, and he will live up to the hype. He's a perfect Jason Kelce replacement. He's better than Landon Dickerson, who they drafted last year, who also isn't healthy. But they have the best offensive line in football, though, so who am I?
Yeah.
But yeah, I love Tyler Linderbaum as a prospect. He's a great interior offensive lineman. He's been killing it at Iowa. And I think, he's a very good fit for the Eagles, who are potentially going to lose Jason Kelce. And I think that there's no other interior offensive lineman who they would want to plug in and play if Jason Kelce decides to retire than Tyler Linderbaum out of Iowa.
Anyways, back to us knowing what we're talking about. The Denver Broncos, they are up on the clock. And I am taking Malik Willis here, quarterback out of Liberty. Yes, Malik Willis. So the Denver Broncos, there's a couple options here. I was thinking of Jabo of Michigan just because they just lost Von Miller and they need to kind of fill that void. But then I thought about it and I was like, I am tired of watching Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock play quarterback in football. Hopefully Teddy gets better. I hope he's all right.
Yeah, it's a shame he got hurt again.
But yeah, Malik Willis here. I think that he is a great quarterback. He might be a complete bust, but he might be great. Either way, the Broncos need a quarterback, and this is the man. This guy has the potential to be a Lamar Jackson. He is that athletic. He is that spectacular at college football. He also has mistakes. He is a young quarterback. You kind of take what comes with it. The Denver Broncos, they might be like rolling the dice, but if it hits, you might have a MVP quarterback on your hands. So taking Malik Willis here, yes, it's a risk, but the Denver Broncos need to take a quarterback because that's their problem, and this is their man.
And even if Malik Willis is a little raw, what better scenario for him to go into than
I knew this was coming.
Backing up bridge quarterback in Teddy Bridgewater.
He was released from the hospital. That's good.
Good. But yeah, I think that's a good situation. Teddy Bridgewater is a quarterback who is very good at developing young quarterbacks. We've seen him do it time and time again. But yeah, with that being said, the Steelers are up on the clock. Now, this was tough for me. I wanted a quarterback here, I really did, but the fact that I was between Sam Howell and Desmond Ritter concerned me. So I hit up a very close friend of the podcast who is a diehard Steelers fan and looks into Steelers analytics heavily and draft prospects, and he does this but just for the Steelers pretty much. So I asked him, who are they picking out of these three guys? And he said it's Charles Cross. Now, this surprised me a little bit due to the fact that the Steelers do need a quarterback, but his thought process was if the Steelers did take a quarterback, it would be Desmond Ritter of the two. But apparently, it sounds like if Mike Tomlin has anything to do with it, Mike Tomlin would draft Charles Cross because he is an offensive tackle and he's prioritizing that more of a quarterback. And I guess it seems like what Mike Tomlin has done in the past, I guess. But yeah, I'd take Drew's advice and I went Charles Cross because the Steelers' offensive line is terrible. They're so hard to watch. We watch them every week because Jake.
Thanks, Jake.
But the Steelers' offensive line is so bad, and just watching them get killed by nobodies, it's hard to watch. So Charles Cross, I like to pick. It's a position in need for the Steelers. You could also see quarterback here, but I like Charles Cross to them just because how bad their offensive line is, and Justin Fields just fumbled. Anyways, you're up on the clock.
With this next pick here, the Cleveland Browns are up at pick 17. I took David Ojabo, edge rusher out of Michigan. He argued I should take a receiver here, but I wanted to go with an edge rusher because I believe that edge rusher is the second most important position in all of football. There's a direct correlation between edge rusher stopping quarterbacks and stopping running backs. So taking a stud edge rusher out of Michigan here, I think is great for the Cleveland Browns. To put on the other side of Myles Garrett, I was a huge fan of the Jadeveon Clowney experiment, and that hasn't really worked out. He's only posted 5 sacks. And when you're on the other side of Myles Garrett and you only post 5 sacks, that's not really good. He might stay with the team, be a rotational kind of guy. I think that's what he should be. But Ojabo here, I think, is a great pick out of Michigan to put on the other side of Myles Garrett to solidify the defensive line. The Cleveland Browns, some will argue quarterback, but I would never do that to Baker on a mock draft. So no. I am taking an edge rusher here, taking arguably the best player available. And I want to see, with these two very athletic defensive edge rushers, what they can do against quarterbacks, especially against, the Lamar Jacksons of the world.
Yeah, and with this next pick, the Baltimore Ravens are up on the clock, and I went Nick Bonito. Dead ass serious, Nick Bonito.
Enough said.
Yep. Ryan got a signed jersey, and it's going to be hanging up in the studio pretty soon, coming at the beginning of next month. That's why I took him. Boomer Sooner. Man, he fits the Ravens scheme, and he'll be good under a John Harbaugh defense.
Next pick.
Yep.
Got the New Orleans Saints going up at number 19, and I'm taking Desmond Ritter, quarterback out of Cincinnati. Now, this might be out of spite, but I'm tired of seeing Taysom Hill. So with that being said, give me a quarterback. The best one available is Desmond Ritter. He has started since his freshman year at Cincinnati. He is the main reason that Cincinnati's even relevant right now. Playing every single game in college football, that shows that he has been through it. I know that he is not a Power 5 conference, and that is something that I personally love. But sometimes you just got to do what you got to do.
Yep.
The Saints, they are a win-now football team, you could say. So if they don't get somebody like an Aaron Rodgers that they might try to...
Oh, shit! Jesus Christ! Woo! Jesus Christ! Oh, God damn!
After we were rudely interrupted, in conclusion, the New Orleans Saints got their franchise quarterback, Desmond Ritter, and Anthony is on the clock at pick number 20.
After I just shit my pants, courtesy of my dad, who is half of our sponsor. Amazing sponsor, by the way. It scared me. Buffalo's on the clock now. And here, this was tough for me. I mean, you could argue offensive line because I feel like Josh Allen runs a lot. We could maybe even see a Kenneth Walker III sighting here with 20, but I think it's kind of early for a running back. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and take Jameson Williams, wide receiver out of Alabama. He shot up the draft board. Buffalo needs a receiver too. Emmanuel Sanders, yeah, he's okay. Gabriel Davis is not your receiver two of the future. Dawson Knox is great in the red zone. But if you compare Diggs and Jameson Williams with Josh Allen, it's going to elevate Buffalo's offense to a higher tier than it already is. I love the fit. He's an Alabama receiver coming from the SEC. We haven't really seen a wide receiver, Buffalo draft a wide receiver that's been this good. I mean, maybe even this high in a long time. I can't tell you the last time we've seen Buffalo draft a receiver this high.
Sammy Watkins.
Maybe. Yeah, probably Sammy Watkins, and we saw it out went. But I like Jameson Williams here. I think him, Josh Allen, and Diggs in the same offense could be deadly. It'll definitely be a problem for my Patriots if this happens. But for the sake of the mock, Jameson Williams to Buffalo is too good to pass up on. And yeah, Ryan's back up on the clock.
With the next pick here, the Miami Dolphins at pick number 21 are taking Nakobe Dean, linebacker out of Georgia. This is really just a position in need for them. They don't have any linebackers besides Van Ginkel, and that man is not the answer to the problems.
Nope.
Nakobe Dean is a great linebacker for the Miami Dolphins. He can rush the quarterback. He can also do pass coverage. That is what the Miami Dolphins need. They need a linebacker that can cover the middle of the field. Nakobe Dean is that guy. He is the leader on his Georgia Bulldogs defense. It is the best defense in all of college football. So the Miami Dolphins taking Nakobe Dean here, I think, is a great pick for him. You can argue probably offensive line, maybe a quarterback if you wanted to really reach. But I think that Tua has been good enough this year in a 7 game win streak that they will not take a quarterback and they will prioritize the defense and take Nakobe Dean. Receivers, arguably, but they just spent a lot of capital on Jalen Waddle. Running back later in a draft. So I would say it's either lineman or linebacker here, and Nakobe Dean is my pick.
Yeah, I love Nakobe Dean as a player. He's one of those guys all over the field. He flies all over the place. And I think Brian Flores will really utilize him in his defense in a lot of different places. If that does happen, again, I like the pick. And here begins the last pick for my pick was the run on receivers, and I'm continuing the run on receivers. Right here, I'm taking Garrett Wilson to the Chargers here due to the fact that Mike Williams is a free agent. He could be leaving. Mike Williams has not been what the Chargers thought he would be when they drafted him. He's been very disappointing, if I'm being quite honest with you. And they can bring in an explosive player like Garrett Wilson to be the team's deep threat that they thought Mike Williams once was and once could be. He's 6 foot. He's kind of tall. He's a speedster. He can run downfield. We've seen him do it with Justin Fields and CJ Stroud his past 2 years in college. I love the fit here to the Chargers. Garrett Wilson running downfield, Justin Herbert airing it out to him. What perfect fit. Again, this is another pick here that could elevate the Chargers offense to a higher level than it already is. So with that being said, Garrett Wilson to the Chargers here. I also think that we could see these receivers go a lot earlier, but this is why we mock. So yeah, Garrett Wilson to 22, and the Eagles are back up. I hope we don't trigger any Eagles fans here. Sorry, but
there's no way that any Eagles fans get mad at this pick. I'm taking the hometown kid. I'm taking Jaquan Brisker, safety out of Penn State. The Eagles, they don't really have a safety, McLeod, and if Eagles fans are going to tell me that he's good,
Mike Epps,
if they're going to tell me that he's good, then so be it. But Brisker here is the second best safety in this class, in my opinion, and it's not very close behind Hamilton, obviously, who was a pretty good person to be behind. Brisker has been a stud in Penn State. He is a local Pennsylvania kid. I think that the Philadelphia Eagles will try and kind of go that route and bring a homer in, bring a guy that fans will like. I know Eagles fans that want Brisker. Matt, shout out to you. Doing this for you. So, Jaquan Brisker to Philly.
Yeah, I like that pick. And this next pick could raise a lot of questions, but I'm going to go ahead and take Treylon Burks out of Arkansas here to Detroit. The fact of the matter is Detroit needs a wide receiver. Amon-Ra St. Brown has been exceptional this year. Everything I thought he would be coming out of USC. I've been saying it. I've been on the Amon-Ra hype train, but he's not the receiver one. Treylon Burks is a guy that Dan Campbell will fall in love with. He's a guy who has drawn comparisons to Cordero Patterson, who's versatile, who lines up in the backfield, can line up in the slot, can line up out wide. He kind of does it all, and I think that he'll thrive in this Dan Campbell offense. The ground and pound style, he's a big guy, he's physical, he can block downfield if they're running the ball. He can also go up, beat a corner downfield, and he can also go up and get a jump ball. Treylon Burks is the full package. Like I said, he's drawn comparisons to Cordero Patterson, who we've really saw turn it on in the right scheme, and I really think Treylon Burks could be that guy in Detroit. I like the pick. He's a guy who's rising up my big board personally. I've heard people say who look in the draft heavy that he is receiver one, which, I mean, I could see it. I got to watch some more film on him first. But from what I've read, from what I've seen, and from just a highlight film that I've seen, Treylon Burks is a stud, and I mean, I think he could go a lot earlier than 24.
This next pick, the Cincinnati Bengals at pick number 25. I think they have to go lineman here, and I took the best offensive lineman available, arguably, Nicholas Petit-Frere. If I pronounce your name wrong, I sincerely apologize, but that's a lot of words for me. Taking an offensive lineman here, I think, is a great pick. People argued that they should have took an offensive lineman instead of Jamar Chase in last year's draft, but I think the Jamar Chase pick worked out for him. They had a great chemistry, and it is working out tremendously. Jamar Chase is arguably Rookie of the Year next to his quarterback. So yeah, taking an offensive tackle here is tremendous for Joe Burrow. He is still getting hit a lot. Joe Mixon is still getting hit behind the line of scrimmage a lot. So really just taking the best offensive lineman available. Doesn't really matter the position to me. I'm taking it here with the Cincinnati Bengals, and I think it's a great pick.
Yeah, I like that pick. The Bengals do need offensive line help. We've seen down the stretch teams are starting to expose how really not good the Bengals offensive line is. They were doing okay, but I mean, down the stretch, Joe Burrow's been getting hit a lot. Joe Mixon's been getting hit a lot, and they just haven't been as good as they were at the start of the year, so I like that pick a lot. And again, to continue the run of wide receivers here, I'm going to go ahead here and take a receiver who I think is very, very good, Jahan Dotson out of Penn State. The Julio Jones era is over. I hate to admit it, believe me, I'm a big Julio guy, but the fact of the matter is Julio is not Julio from 10 years ago, and that is what I've come to realize. Jahan Dotson, he's a great compliment to A.J. Brown, a receiver too, just makes Ryan Tannehill's job much easier than it already is. They're getting Derrick Henry back pretty soon. A.J. Brown is going to stay healthy, and Jahan Dotson is a perfect compliment. The Titans, I wanted Devin Lloyd here. I thought Roger McCreary here to help beef up that secondary. But Mike Vrabel's been making do with what he has on defense. They've been pretty good. I know that their whole linebacking core is supposed to go in free agency this year. I'm sure they'll bring him back. Mike Vrabel has been making do with what he has on defense, and it's been working out pretty well. The Titans' defense has been good, and their offense is lacked. We've seen Julio go down, A.J. Brown down, Derrick Henry down. They have absolutely no one. So Jahan Dotson will be a great acquisition for the Titans here at 26.
With this next pick number 27, Arizona Cardinals on a board, and I'm taking Trayvon Walker, edge rusher out of Georgia. J.J. Watt is getting up there in age. So is Chandler Jones. Chandler Jones fell off a cliff after his first game performance. He wore the same shirt for about 8-9 weeks or so before he could land another sack. Trayvon Walker here is a super athletic edge rusher out of Georgia. Might be a little bit raw, but that's okay when you have veteran guys that can develop him throughout, the season. In my opinion, that's a pretty big need for the Cardinals. You can argue offensive line. You could probably even argue another receiver type of deal just because of the fact that I don't think they have a true number 2 guy. Christian Kirk and Rondale Moore are more gadget guys in my personal opinion. But I think edge rusher here, I think is something that they need to go with no real offensive linemen being on the board. So Trayvon Walker here out of Georgia, I think is the pick.
Yeah, I mean, you could also argue corner there as well. Receiver, I mean, there's all possible needs you could argue for the Cardinals, but they've been pretty good. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers up at 28. I'm taking Chris Olave here due to the fact Chris Godwin just tore his ACL. He probably won't be back till the end later next season. The Antonio Brown experiment, I don't really know what the hell is going on there. He's supposed to come back. But yeah, they're going to need receiver depth. Mike Evans is Mike Evans. He's always good as long as he's healthy. Chris Godwin is out till the end of next season probably, and we don't know what's going to happen with AB.
Sure?
Yeah, no, I've seen it.
That long?
I mean, it's probably a year, right, for ACL? I mean,
He'll probably be back in the training camp.
who knows when Chris Godwin's going to be out till, sorry if I use misinformation, but yeah, he just tore his ACL. We don't know what's happening with Antonio Brown. They're going to need to keep weapons for Tom Brady. Chris Olave is an explosive guy who Brady can throw to deep downfield. Tom Brady has a hose, as we've seen. So I like the Chris Olave pick there. I mean, who knows if he'll fall this far. We may be looking at a Jahan Dotson or a Treylon Burks here. Just depends how the board goes. But I like the pick personally, and I think it would be a good fit in the Tampa Bay offense.
9 to 12 months, so you can argue next season. You can also argue September and ready for football. You don't know. So yeah, a receiver here could definitely be possible. Anyways, with that being said,
I'm back on the clock. Patriots here. I really didn't have to think much about this one. Roger Mccreary, cornerback out of Auburn. He's everything a Bill Belichick corner needs. If Bill Belichick wants in a corner, he can play man, he can play zone, he's got good size. He's a overall, he's a perfect prototypical Bill Belichick corner. I love the fit he's been playing in the SEC against the Jerry Judys and the Henry Ruggses and the Devontae Smiths and the Jalen Waddles of the world year in, year out. He's played against first-round receivers. He did it again this year. He's had a solid year. He's been good for Auburn. I like the pick, and I think it's a perfect fit for my Patriots. Wanted wide receiver here maybe, but none of the top receivers are here. So with that being said, Roger McCreary, I love the pick, and it helps a major need for my Patriots.
I'm taking the next 2 picks. The first one is the Dallas Cowboys. I'm taking Darian Kennard, interior offensive lineman out of Kentucky. He is an SEC guy, and the Dallas Cowboys have a problem in interior offensive line, whether it is center or guard. We have been kind of shuffling between Beadas and Connor Williams and Connor McGovern. I think Darian Kennard taking a first-round offensive lineman is something that the Cowboys would do because it's something that they've done for the past 10 years. And I think a guy out of Kentucky, an SEC guy, is a perfect solution for that. And this next pick got the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm taking Devin Lloyd, linebacker out of Utah. It is the best player available up on the board. And Kansas City Chiefs, they need a linebacker. You could have argued safety here, but I like going with the more physical guy. I don't think they go on offense because that's not really their problem. So Devin Lloyd here out of Utah. It's a position in need. I know they just drafted Nick Bolton, but they could always use another linebacker, a possible edge rusher with, Frank Clark and all those guys not really panning out, I would say.
Yeah.
So Devin Lloyd is my pick here.
Yeah, I like the pick as long as the Chiefs can use him right. I think he'll be good. He can line up in the middle. He can line up on the outside and rush the edge, like you said. So I like the pick there. Chiefs defense has been monstrous. Not good as of late. And then the final pick, this one was tough for me just because Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams are gone. They don't really need a quarterback. They probably could have used a receiver here, but I didn't really like anyone. George Pickens maybe, but I mean, it depends what we see from him in the playoffs is what I think will have an effect on his draft stock. So I went ahead and when in doubt, draft offensive lineman. I went Trevor Penning out of Northern Iowa. The Packers' offensive line is always banged up. I mean, Ellen Jenkins is always hurt. They have no depth. Their backup center is also their backup guard on both sides. They have no depth on the offensive line. So, with all that being said, I mean, Trevor Penning here is a good pick. He's an offensive lineman. I know he's out of Northern Iowa, so there's a question there on the competition he's been going against. But Green Bay, they need help on the offensive line. They need depth for Jordan Love, Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, and whoever they're throwing the ball to. And like I said, like we've always said, when in doubt, draft an offensive lineman. And with that being said, that is going to wrap up this mock draft. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe. I'm glad you enjoyed me getting scared. We left it in the video for you guys. So with that being said, we'll see you guys Wednesday with our fantasy football playoff content.
See ya.